Welcome back to another edition of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. I'm your host, Lamont Gates, once again bringing you the world of faith, metaphysicality, and spirituality. Today, my guest had a near-death experience while on duty in the Navy. Joining me today, ladies and gentlemen, is near-death experiencer Penny Jones. Penny, welcome to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
Thank you so much, Lamont. I'm glad to be here and I'm very excited to tell my stories. I appreciate you.
No problem at all. Glad to have you here as well. Now, Penny, before we go into your near-death experience account and what triggered it, I want to talk a little bit about any previous religious or spiritual beliefs you may have held. Did you grow up with any particular practice, or did you have a concept of the afterlife prior to having your near-death experience?
Yes, I was raised on a farm in Milton, Florida. We grew up in a strictly Christian household, Baptist. We attended church every Sunday. My father was a deacon in the church. Um, in my teen years, I was in a choir. So I grew up with all the concept of Christianity, the concept of heaven and hell. If you're bad or if you sin, you're going to go to hell, heaven, the golden gate, the golden streets, the beautiful pearly gates is what I grew up with. And that's what I believed in basically all of my life
So,
before the experience.
yeah, so you were steeped in religion and spirituality, and you absolutely had a concept of the afterlife. Now, what I want to do is go into what it was that actually triggered your near-death experience to occur. I understand it happened while you were in the military.
Yes, I'm retired from the Navy. I was on the USS Puget Sound. On that ship, I worked in engineering. My job was a boiler technician, and at the time, I became what they call a fuel oil king. It is dominantly a male job, but I qualified and became one of the first females to ever qualify as an oil king. We were doing sea operations out at sea. That's when we go out and we do exercises. So if there is an accident or an emergency, we'll be prepared for it. So we were out at sea doing sea trials, and I was on the supply ship, the USS Puget Sound supply ship, and we were refueling our carrier out at sea. So I was orchestrating the fuel oil transfer because I was an oil king. I'm in the engineering space all by myself. This is called the fire room. In the fire room, there's 600 psi boilers where fire is going, the fuel lines. I'm orchestrating, I'm opening valves, closing valves for the fuel tanks to refill the ship. At the time, I'm in the space by myself. I hear a hissing noise, like a spewing. And I see from a distance that fuel, F-76 jet fuel, is spewing out of a pipe that is also spewing on all of the engineering equipment that we have down there, which is was very dangerous. So immediately, I called away, this is not a drill, this is not a drill, major fuel leak compartment, such and such, which is what the fire room was. Immediately after I called it away twice, I knew the firefighting team was coming down into my space. I took my headset off, I went over to the leak, and I put my hands up against the leak to stop the fuel from spewing onto the boilers because there was going to be an explosion. I didn't think about it. It's just that time I knew that I had to stop this leak. So then this is what I remember. It was likened to the movie, if you saw the movie with Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg, the movie Ghost. In that moment, I was standing up top above the fire room hatch with all of my shipmates. We're standing in a circle and everybody's staring down at the hatch of the fire room. So I'm standing there and I'm talking to a shipmate and I'm saying, what's going on? She just had her hands covered up. Start looking at the hole, and they're pulling the body out of the hole. The body was like a rag doll. The arms were moving. It was very limp. And when I made contact with the face, it was my face. They were pulling my body out of the fire room hole. In that moment, it was a sense of shock and disbelief. But then immediately I saw a light, almost like a portal starting to form of bright white lights in a portal that began to open up. And I remember starting to feel light and float like I was floating. Um, the light became brighter, and then I was engulfed in what it felt like an energy. I was engulfed, and I started to merge with another energy that was there, and I didn't see any golden uh, streets of gold. I didn't see pearly gates. What I saw was likened to being amongst the stars, amongst the galaxies, amongst the universe. And it seems like every part of me started to merge with this energy, and the feeling was beyond anything that I've ever experienced. The feeling was, I want to say, likened to an orgasmic, multiplied that 1,000 times. It was so good, and there wasn't fear. I wasn't afraid. I had a feeling of like, where am I? But yet I felt like I was supposed to be there. If you can grasp that, it's like I was where I was supposed to be, and I was curious and wanted to see what's. I didn't think of the concept that I was dead or I had passed. I was just where I was supposed to be. As I became intertwined in this energy, it was like a sound of watery waves, a sound of frequency. If whatever frequency sounds like vibrations, it was a feeling. And there was no concept of time. It didn't exist. Nothing exists. Everything was nothing, and nothing was everything. And I don't know, that's the best way I can describe this feeling. And then um, I woke up. When I woke up, it was 3 days later. Well, I didn't know it was 3 days later. I just remember being in this beautiful space. And then when I opened my eyes, I looked over and I was in a hospital bed. I looked out the window and there was a iguana walking across the parking lot. And I heard a nurse say, "She's awake, she's awake." And the doctors, everybody started rushing to my room. And I'm still a little bit confused. And they said, "What's your name? Do you know where you are? What's the last name?" I'm like, "My name, what year is it? Who's the president?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" They said, "What day is it?" And I said, "It's Tuesday." And they said, "No, it's Friday." 3 days had passed. 3 days. But what I experienced maybe could have lasted 20, 30 minutes of me in this zone. But 3 days had, and I couldn't believe it. They had to prove to me that 3 days had passed. They had to get the newspaper, they had to turn on TV. I just couldn't believe that. And they said, "What's the last thing you remember?" And I thought, and I said, "Well, there was a fuel leak. That's the last thing I remembered." And then it started coming to me as time went about I was standing there with my shipmates. And then they explained to me that the firefighting team pulled me out of the hole, and that when they put my body on the gurney, it left a fuel oil print. That's how soaked I was with fuel oil. And that they revived me in medical, and a helicopter came and got me off the ship and flew me to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So the hospital I woke up in was Cuba. Still, I couldn't believe it, but I remember definitely something changed because being growing up in the Word and growing up in the Bible, there was a Bible on my nightstand, and I remember opening that Bible, and what I had seen with my eyes, like the apple, the tree, the fruit, physically is what I saw, the snake. Then after this experience, I partook of your fruit. You're a snake in the grass. I saw it spiritually. It wasn't seeing it physically anymore. It's like I read now, and I came back with the spiritual awakening from this experience that it's just unbelievable. So um, that's what happened. It's
Yeah,
still amazing to me when I think about it.
absolutely. It sounds amazing. It's a very, very intriguing story. If I may, I would love to go back and just ask a few follow-up questions. So it sounds as if prior to the prior to having this explosion even occur, it's almost as if you didn't even feel it.
Yes, it didn't. It didn't explode. It's the fuel. Yeah, I just remember putting myself against in the inhalation from the fuel and took all my oxygen away. So I didn't feel the effects of what was going on. No, but I was told later that. I mean, I got a letter, a medal of commendation from Bill Clinton for my bravery in saving the ship. So it's very a big deal.
Very
But
fascinating.
yes,
Yes. And then you had what can be commonly described as an out-of-body experience. You likened it to the film Ghost. You said you were above your physical body looking down and you saw some of the team coming in, dragging out a body. You didn't know who it was or what it
yeah,
was until you were focused on the face and saw that it was yours. Was
yeah.
that, did that bring fear into you at all?
In that moment, I remember I felt shocked. Like I said, what it was surreal. What is this? I'm looking at me, but in that moment, that's when I started to float away into this light, and that it just started gradually start like I was separating, becoming protons, electrons, and neutrons, like just separating from the physical form
And
and
melding into
becoming.
this light, as you say.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
And then you say you went amongst the stars. You felt as if you were in a universe setting
Yeah,
where the feeling was just orgasmic, as you stated. Now, could you liken this feeling to immeasurable love? Many near-death experiencers talk about an immense type of love they feel that's, incomparable to anything here on earth.
if I could express what the feeling felt like, the English language would definitely collapse. It would collapse. The it has to be the love of God, the creator, the highest power, the creator of the universe. Because now I believe that when I go outside, I hug trees now. When I'm hugging that tree makes oxygen for me. And I'm giving it what it needs. That is God to me. That is the love of of me being able to live. So I feel like now everything is God. Everything is one. There is no everything is connected. And that's what that feeling of being in that space that I was in, a spirituality, a straight spirit, because there was no physical sense of me, the way I was floating, the way I was connecting, the way I was separating and merging into this energy. It was nothing physical about it. And it had to be the orgasmic feeling was love beyond love in human form.
You described a sense of familiarity. Many near-death experiencers talk about feeling that where they belong was where this space is that you ultimately went into. They
Yes,
typically talk about feeling like they were home. Did you have that feeling?
absolutely. There was no fear. There was no sense of I wasn't, I think fear didn't exist. Um, I was like, if I can liken what I was thinking, I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is it. Oh, like I'm so scared of death. Oh, this place right here. Now this is where I'm supposed to be. This is the existence of what I truly am. This is just a shell, the physical. But in that time when I was in this place and experienced this, it was definitely where I knew the answer to everything. We say, well, what's our purpose of life? Well, now I know my purpose is to know my purpose and to share my purpose. That's it. That's what life's about now for me, to know my purpose and to share it. And that is to share this love, to not be so selfish, self centered, to know that this is temporary. This existence here is temporary. And there is something beyond this. It's not, maybe not the pearly gates because I didn't see them. Not say it's not, doesn't exist, but I didn't experience that. I experienced something I feel is more greater, the pure energy and love of God, of creation, of nature, of the universe. You know,
So let me ask, did you feel that this is a place where we go after death, or did you feel while you were in this place, this is where we originally came from and simply returned?
I feel like I feel like now I feel like I'm just experiencing humanity in human form from where I came from. I was there in this place. This is home. This is the ultimate. What I'm experiencing now, this life is for me to learn to be better or just to experience this in the span of time that I was there, I would say this life is like a whisper. In the 80 or 90 years, I'm 61. This 61 years is like a one breath. Where I think it's 60 years is so long, it's nothing compared to being in this out of body experience and having this near death experience.
Sure, and I'm certain that it's a feeling of like eternity. Uh, you said something
Infinite, yes.
you said something very profound. You said while you were there, everything was nothing, yet nothing was everything. I think that is the most profound statement I've ever heard in my life from a near-death experiencer.
That's,
So if we break that down philosophically and we think about it, everything was nothing, right? I guess you can say there was an absence of time and all the things you knew from an earthly perspective. Yet,
exactly.
yet in this nothing is everything because
It's everything that I've ever desired.
you've
The
got
feeling.
right, the
I got
feeling of
goosebumps.
love, etc.
And completeness and wholeness and fullness. But yet it wasn't the heaviness of being in this realm of this dimension, the weight of the world. It didn't exist. There was no weight. Everything was effortless. It was like just a merging of one. It was beautiful.
After you woke up from this, you said you woke up in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba in the hospital, and it was 3 days later. Did you attempt to tell anyone about what you saw?
You know, in that moment, because of the question, it wasn't the forefront in my mind, the near death experience memory. Basically, I was just in shock that they were trying to tell me I was in a coma or I was asleep for 3 days. I'm I'm trying to process that. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. But as it flew me back to the States because I couldn't go back on the ship because it damaged my lungs, and they eventually retired me. But as I started to reflect, slowly and slowly, it would come into me this what happened. And the funniest thing happened, and she can correlate this. When I was standing up there with my shipmates, the friend I was talking to wasn't even stationed on that ship at that time. She was a friend from a previous duty station. And I talked to her about it. And, she said to me, I remember that. And she wasn't even there. This friend of mine, her name is Asha, she even said to me, Penny, I remember this. I dreamed about this. What I was telling her about and that was one of the oddest things that happened in this experience is that when I came back to my ship, all my shipmates told me we thought we saw ghosts because they never mentioned what happened to me. They thought I had passed away. I was gone. They didn't know. They don't talk about that when something happens on a ship. And so when they saw me, everybody was so happy. And they started telling me about what occurred. That's how I know about the fuel oil print. And they took me up to medical on the ship, and the helicopter came and got me. I don't remember any of that. I was told that by my shipmate. I get emotional when I talk about this.
Yes, and you're not the
Yeah.
only one. Many near-death experiencers, when they share their account, it's almost as if they're reliving it.
Yeah.
Um, Many near-death experiencers also describe what can be commonly known as after effects. For example, many who come back from a near-death experience typically do so with heightened emotions, heightened empathy
Intuition.
levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, lack of fear of death, precognition, premonitions. Did you come back with anything remotely different about you after this near-death experience?
Yes. I some of it, I would say a word that we have here in this form is coincidence. Oh, it's coincidence. I can sense something is not going to be so good, or something I shouldn't go there, or if something bad happens. Like I have the intuition, even about people. I have this when I come into somebody's, we're exchanging, I'm able to exchange energy now. That's what I'm going to say. When I now, there's a space right now between you and I, there's an energy that is real, even though I can't see it. That energy is transferred, and I can feel people when they come into my presence, and they can feel me. And a lot of people tell me, wow, it's just something about you. It's something about you. It's something I get that so much, and that's something I know is the essence that what I brought back with me that's so pure and so beautiful that it can't be ignored. And I'm not saying I'm better than, or I just know I have a beautiful gift. It's beautiful. It's what I do with it. And I'm grateful for it that I can experience this. So everyone can say, yeah, they're different. Everyone is different, but having had this experience, I've come back from the universe, from creation, and it's left me with this connection about being able to exchange this energy and being able to come into somebody's path and hear something say, this person, almost like a voice in my voice, that says, don't talk to this person, or this person, stay away from this person. That's a real thing. And I believe that I follow that. I don't second guess. If something comes to me and gives me a feeling that this, I don't question it. And I've been okay. Yes.
We started off with the religious question, and you said that you were raised on a farm, deeply rooted in Christianity, Baptist Christianity in particular. After having your near-death experience, what does religion and your prior religion look like to you now?
Religions, I always say this, all religions to me are man-made. Religion, spirituality is of God. With each religion, there are beautiful aspects of each one that people can gain and grow from and live by to make them better. For me, I've stayed away from the church for a very long time. After my near-death experience, I started seeking. I wanted to know more. I started looking into metaphysics and frequencies, vibration, and all of that coincided with what I connected with the spiritual element of the awakening. Now, I've just in the last month returned back to church. I go to church. Now, to put a label on it, no, I take what I need and I leave the rest. So for me, I feel like religions is just a name, but it still has a spiritual aspect of it. So for me, I'm spiritual. I practice spirituality, but I can go to a Buddhist temple, I can go to a Christian church, I can go to a mosque, but I'm going to get what I need from it because I know who I am and I know what I feel. And I can distinguish what's good and what's bad for me. It has nothing to do with what religion, it has to do with my spiritual health and growth.
How has it been sharing your near-death experience? Did you share them at all with any loved ones?
Yes. Some people don't believe it. I get that from some people that are like, oh, here she goes. And then, that's why I think I shared it in the group, a support group that I found on Facebook. That day I just shared and I wrote it out because it's part of me. I want to share it. I want people to know, like, and then when I started seeing other people that had near death experiences, I related to it so much that I want to share it. And but sometimes I don't share a lot, because most people think it's some kind of magical or some mystical thing that you don't want to talk about, or they have a preceded notion about what it is after death. So I'm not trying to change their mind, or it's just that, but I want to share because it's my truth, but it's something I probably want to share more often now because it makes me feel wonderful when I share it. It's magical. If whatever magic is, that's what it is. What I experienced. If there's such a thing as magic, that's what it is.
Or we can probably liken this more to divinity. You know, I had
Divine
a
intervention.
yes, I had a near-death experiencer who actually had a near-death experience in Vietnam. He was on the battlefield. He was he had this beautiful light-filled experience, and he said exactly what you said afterwards. He said, "It's just a part of me now." So that's just it seems to be a common theme amongst near-death experiencers. There was their life prior, and then there's this added glow to them after they come back, and they just can't let it go because it's who they are now.
And you said it. A lot of people say you have this glow, a glow. And sometimes I look in the mirror, I see it myself, or I'm looking at my camera and I say, I'm glowing. So I think the spirit, my whatever my flesh can't contain, is gonna come out somehow, either in tears, either in glow. but it can't be avoided.
And I can totally see that myself as well. Well, Penny, I want to thank you for coming on Real Spiritual Talk Radio and sharing with us your absolutely fascinating account.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you just taking the time out to listen to my story. And hopefully someone else can relate to it as well.
Certainly will. I'm sure they will. Ladies and gentlemen, Penny Jones.
Thank you.